Hi, water science teachers. My name is Dr. Nanette Dietrich, and I'm a professor at Millersville University in Pennsylvania. I'm going to be working on part of the research for the water science project. And I'm going to need your help to collect some of the data. There are two simple things that I'm going to need your help with. The first one is a teacher survey that I'd like you to take. It's very short. And the second is a short one-page assessment I'd like you to administer to your students after the capstone experience. But let me explain to you just a little bit on why I'm asking you to collect the data that we need. And we're going to begin by just a quick review of our research questions. Two of the research questions for this project are, the first one is, how does students' STEM content knowledge evolve through their participation in the water science activities? For this question, we need to look at the change in students' content knowledge. Now, what we're doing is, in the activities, there were 4 purposeful questions that were embedded, one in each activity. And they took this assessment right after completing the activity. They should have done well, and most of them did. And now what we're going to do after the capstone experience, I'm going to ask you to give those same 4 questions again to your students. And we're just going to see how much is retained. So we're looking at how much content knowledge is retained. The second research question is, in what ways do water science experiences enhance students' awareness and interest in STEM careers and activities? And in the curriculum that we used, you probably noted that there were some embedded STEM careers inside each and every activity, and that was purposeful. So we're just going to be looking at, again, during that post one-page assessment that I'd like you to give your students, we're going to ask them if they remember any of those careers and if they have any interest in them. So very simple. So what I'm going to be asking you to do is 2 things. One is to give a one-page assessment to your students after they complete the capstone experience. And here's a picture of it. I promise it is indeed just 1 page, and you can choose how you administer this assessment. You can do old school and just print out this page. This is attached in the Schoology course. Have the students do it old paper and pencil and send it to me. Or you can choose to use the link to this Google form. So if you don't have access to computers readily in your classroom, you can choose the paper pencil method. If you do, you can have your students complete the assessment right here on a Google form. Now here's where we're kind of in a time crunch. The grant itself ends on March 30th, and you guys are doing the capstone at the beginning of March. So we have very little time between when you administer this post-assessment and when I needed to be able to do some analysis. So if you're doing it the digital version, it will be immediately sent off and I'll have that data. But if you choose to do the paper version, which is perfectly okay, I'm going to ask that you scan and send me the data as soon as you're finished. So if you can do it within 48 hours of completing the assessment, that would be very helpful. The second thing I need from you is for you to take this very simple teacher survey. And why is that? Well, first of all, I want a little demographic on what state you're in and your name and what grade you teach. But I also need to know what water science activities you implemented in your classroom. I know many of you did all 4 parts of the activities, and some of you may have only done part 2 or part 4. So I need to know, what did you actually implement? The second thing I need from you is an understanding of what additional activities you may have done. I know in the teacher guide we had a sample crumpled paper activity. We also have some wonderful water science videos located in the teacher's guide that you could use. Some of you may have chosen to take your students outside and do a tour of your local watershed. So if you can give me some ideas of some additional activities you may or may not have done. And that's as simple as the form is. So the 2 things I need your help with is take the teacher survey, very quick. I highly recommend you do it right now. And the second one is to ask your students right after the capstone to take this very short post-assessment. There are 2 ways they can do it, old-fashioned paper pencil, or you can take it via the Google form. Either way is perfectly fine as long as I get the data as quickly as possible. On a side note, if you happen to be a Pennsylvania teacher, if you're in the middle school, if you can get your completed paper assessments, if you choose that method, to Mr. Bowling by 7th period, he can send it home via backpack mail. I ask that you put your assessments in an envelope, a large manila envelope, and seal it. And if you happen to be at the elementary school, you can deliver them to Dr. K, and he can also make sure they get home via backpack mail. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'm excited to see what data we get.